Hi, it's Chris with Implied Music, and I'm back with another American Songbook analysis. And I've said this before, but it's worth repeating. There's a whole generation of musicians like myself who didn't learn functional harmony from classical music, but rather from the great American Songbook standards that used secondary dominants, tritone substitutions, complicated series of chords around the circle of fifths to create complex harmonic structures. It's not so much what we do anymore in pop music. Today I want to look at the great songwriter Hoagy Carmichael. So Hoagy Carmichael, probably his heyday was in the 30s, and you've maybe seen him in a lot of just terrific old movies. He's the composer of hundreds of songs, including some just classics. Today I want to look at 3 songs, and we'll try to kind of skip through them quickly. Georgia on My Mind, that's a great song, we love that. Lazy River, Up the Lazy River, which we'll look at first because it's a terrific example of the circle of fifths, and the classic Stardust. Okay, let's jump in. Well, this version of Lazy River that I have in front of me, and by the way, Hoagy Carmichael, I'm a giant fan of his, and if you want to get a glimpse of him as a pianist and performer, check out the Bogart Bacall film, To Have and Have Not. He plays Cricket, the world-weary, wise philosopher pianist. He and Bacall do a couple of numbers together. It's terrific stuff. You chew on a toothpick sometimes when I want to channel my inner Hoagy Carmichael. Here's Up the Lazy River. So we're in the key of F, but the first series of chords has cranked us back along the circle of fifths. So just looking at the chords themselves, this is the F sound. But the first set of chords are D7 flat 9, to C7, and then around the circle, G7 to C7, and finally C7 back home to F. It starts on the dominant 6 chord, so there's a series of secondary dominants. D is a secondary dominant, which takes us to G7, which takes us to C7, the actual dominant, and home to F. He's begun the song up the river, and we're heading downriver. The metaphor of the harmonic cycle is closely linked to the words. He starts up the lazy river. Up the lazy river. That's on the 6 chord, kids. Listen to this melody. I love that circle of fifths in the build of the song. It's just part of the language of the song. And like a lot of Carmichael's song, this melody has strong angles in it. It starts with this dissonant tone, the flat 9 on the top, and it basically establishes the idea of strong chromatic outside voices. Right? And then perhaps less so, but to a 9th, and then this chromatic run again. I mean, it's old-fashioned in a way, but it's also just very strong. He's like, is that all the notes? I mean, he's almost given us all the notes, all 12 tones in the course of just those 4 bars. It's a great example of using strong dissonant melody It's bluesy, but it also harkens back to old school, almost like music, I would say like musical theater, the Franz Lehár school of musical theater stuff. There's a big change that happens in the American Songbook between, say, Irving Berlin, who's definitely looking backwards to Europe and European style melodies, and George Gershwin, who's really incorporating the Black American blues tinged melodies. And Carmichael is right on the knife edge between those two. Well, after the initial statement of all this, and it's a simple AB form or A prime form, we come back to where we started. And this time we go to the 4 chord. This is Blue Skies Up Above. That diminished chord taking us back to F, the highest note in the song, Everyone's in Love. And, the close is just a secondary dominant to C, to F, back down to the 6 that we were at before, 2 as a dominant, 5, 1. So many beautiful secondary dominants, so many chords drawn from the harmonic highway, from the pathway of the circle of fifths built into the given scale, but then repurposed with full-on dominant chords. Let's look at another Hoagy Carmichael song. A classic ballad, Georgia on My Mind. Some people just call it Georgia. And again, we're in F, at least in this lead sheet here. I've heard it done in a lot of different keys. And this song begins on the F chord, but immediately takes us down to the relative minor, to D minor. So here's our F major, Georgia, and then a 2-5 to D minor. E minor 7 flat 5 is the 2, A7 is the 5 of D. And it's just like Paul McCartney's Yesterday, isn't it? Same key even. The 4 chord as a minor 6 chord, so beautiful. And here's that pathway, 3, 6, 2, 5, another 3, 6, and then this melody tone. That's an augmented 5th to the C7, and a bluesy note, if I ever heard one. It's the flat 3 in the key of F. And it's so pretty, right? Oh, God, let's just go on. So as we get into the bridge, we go to the relative minor again, and it really is very much in D minor because we've got other arms reach out to me. So D minor. Really very strongly D minor. It's just a classic example of a middle 8 in the relative minor. We're back home again. This G over B, the bass line's descending. There's the minor 4 chord again. The 9th on the dominant 6 chord takes us beautifully home. And then a backdoor cadence, E flat 9, back up to F. Well, again, we see some wide leaps characteristic of Hoagy Carmichael's writing. We see the use of classic secondary dominance, and he's moving around that harmonic highway, the circle of fifths that's built into the key of F. In this case, we could say A is the 5 of D, which is the 5 of G minor 7, which is the 5 of C, which is the 5 of F. Those chords, common to Western common practice, appear in the American Songbook so often. Let's look at the last song we're going to take a look at, Stardust. Stardust was a favorite song of my family when I was growing up. My parents loved it. I think it was kind of like one of my parents' classic songs. And you know what? There's a killer Willie Nelson version of this song too. There's a verse and refrain in this song, and it's worth taking a quick look at the verse. That is to say, the sort of introduction to the song, because it begins with this little phrase. That's an F7. And that little phrase is kind of interesting, and it might appear later in the actual refrain. And then E7 with a flat 9, that's all chromatic. E7 to A7. A7 is the 5 of what? D, of course. And then B7 comes sort of out of nowhere. So sinking back down to C. Listen, we're just going to go into the verse now, although let's notice how sort of angular some of those melodic ideas were. The verse ends this way. Right, we've heard that melody. And then sometimes I wonder why I spend the lonely night dreaming of a song. What a great lyric, and what a kind of like propulsive lyric, right? So here's the melody, sometimes chromatic. Sometimes I won. Wow, so interesting. We're starting on the leading tone, going to the tonic, which is C, but he's given us C augmented to F6. And he's landed us at the beginning of the song, not on the 1 chord, but on the 4 chord. And he takes his sweet time getting back to C, 4 measures. Right around the chord, and then this beautiful moment here, that's a 4 minor chord, 4 minor 6, but with its major 7 on top. And then down the chord, it's right down the chord, just notes of the chord. And then big leap up. Finally, we get to C, 3, 6, 2, right? He just stays on 2. It's like we sort of are in D now. It's so interesting. F minor 6 acting as a push to the G7. That diminished substitute for it. Here's that chromatic line again. And then pushing forward, the 2 chord is a dominant, but that was long ago. Wow, what a melody, right? But that was long ago. Now my consolation. Crazy. Try to sing that sometime. You'll see how crazy it is. But it's very just kind of like old school jazz blues. The coda. I love this motion. Look at the bass, it's just descending. Oh, sorry, where are we? Dream in Vain. Dream in Vain, it's minor. Good, and here we are. Now the motion. Carmichael really knew what he was doing, boy. Wrote hundreds of songs, and a lot of them were just giant hits, recorded by so many different artists. The American Songbook is a treasure trove of harmonic, rhythmic, and melodic ideas for us. We ignore it sort of at our peril. As I said, a lot of musicians of my generation learned kind of fundamentals of harmony from songs like this, and I still just get a giant kick out of playing through them. Well, if you've persevered, kudos to you, and let me know if you're working with American Songbook songs as part of your own kind of growth and development. I'm not saying you have to play them or anything, but study them, listen to them, look at lead sheets like this. It's fascinating stuff. Well, I hope this has been useful. Like and subscribe, ding the bell. You'll be notified when I do my videos, and I'll see you next time.